Should housing be treated as a commodity or a social right? Hi everyone, today I'd like to discuss one of the most controversial issues in urban economics and public policy. Should housing be treated primarily as a market commodity or as a fundamental social right? Housing occupies a unique position in every economy. Unlike many consumer goods, a home is not simply an asset that generates financial returns. It is also the place where people raise families, participate in communities, and enjoy privacy and security. Because housing performs both economic and social functions, policymakers often disagree about how it should be governed. Supporters of market-oriented housing policies argue that housing should be allocated through market mechanisms. When prices accurately reflect supply and demand, developers have strong incentives to construct new housing where demand is greatest. Competition among builders encourages efficiency, innovation, and investment. If governments intervene excessively through rent controls or strict price regulations, developers may reduce construction because expected returns decline. Over time, housing shortages may become even more severe. Economists often point to this unintended consequence as evidence that well-intentioned regulations can sometimes exacerbate the very problem they seek to solve. However, critics argue that housing differs fundamentally from ordinary commodities. A shortage of luxury goods may inconvenience consumers, but a shortage of affordable housing threatens human dignity and social stability. Without secure housing, individuals face greater difficulty obtaining education, employment, healthcare, and political participation. From this perspective, access to adequate housing should be regarded as a basic social right rather than merely another outcome of market competition. Another important issue concerns speculation. In many cities, housing has increasingly become an investment vehicle rather than simply a place to live. When investors purchase multiple properties in anticipation of future price appreciation, housing demand may rise independently of genuine residential needs. This speculative demand can inflate prices beyond the purchasing power of ordinary households, particularly first-time buyers. As affordability declines, wealth inequality may increase because homeowners benefit from rising asset values, while renters face escalating housing costs. Governments therefore confront a difficult policy dilemma. On one hand, restricting investment too aggressively may discourage construction and reduce overall housing supply. On the other hand, allowing unrestricted speculation may undermine affordability and social mobility. Many economists therefore advocate policies that expand housing supply while simultaneously discouraging purely speculative investment through carefully designed taxation and land use reform. In my opinion, housing should not be viewed exclusively through either an economic or a social lens. Markets remain highly effective at allocating resources and encouraging construction. However, governments also bear responsibility for ensuring that ordinary citizens can obtain safe and affordable housing. Policies should therefore seek to increase supply, improve market competition, and protect vulnerable households without undermining long-term investment incentives. Ultimately, housing is both an economic asset and a social necessity. Treating it solely as a commodity overlooks its role in human well-being. Treating it solely as a social right may ignore the incentives necessary to sustain adequate supply. A successful housing policy must recognize both dimensions. So here's my question for you. Should governments allow housing prices to be determined primarily by market forces, or should they intervene more actively to guarantee affordable housing for all citizens? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for listening. See you next time.